So, good afternoon, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the course. So, last week we were talking about social media, if you remember, and we mentioned a few problems and challenges that they are facing nowadays within the field of new media, social media practically, such as fake news, such as plagiarism, the lack of authorship, hate speech, and all that jazz, and how the government or the state itself needs to interfere, and in what cases the government will interfere in what sort of, like hate speech against a person, a group, a full-on state. These are the topics that we were dealing with. Today, we're going ahead with new media literacy, however, which is, the whole title of this course, but I wanted to build it up until here so that we actually reach a peak in the semester. And this one is going to be a rather, kind of conceptual class today with loads of examples, and we will take a look at the relevance of new media literacy within the media, and then within the family, and then within education itself. So let's just jump right into it. Number one thing, yes, I wanted to talk to you, is that there are new kind of phenomena in the world which bring the whole kind of issue of new media literacy into existence or alive. First of all, babies have their own digital footprints even before being born, which is crazy, because parents already kind of share photos of them in the belly, and then they share a lot of images of them. They don't even have the right to decide of their privacy. Of course, a baby does not really have a right to decide anything, because you as a parent have to take care of them. But I'm wondering what you think about babies being shown on the media. There are certain big Hungarian celebrities, and I also have got some acquaintances who have got babies, but they don't show the face, or they don't show the children. We have got another one called, it's like a talk show host, Balázs, and he's like a very celebrated guy, I'm assuming, and so he has got some children and he never shows them on the media. So it's just like there is a more media conscious behavior nowadays, because they believe that the baby having a digital footprint before being conscious, or before knowing about it, or before being born, is just not a right thing. So many people believe that it's part of their own lives and they do it safe, and of course they will kind of, if you share your private life anyways on Instagram or somewhere, it's a normal part of life. So I'm wondering what you think about it, but this one was calling new media literacy alive as well, and once again it was just like triggering some thoughts as well. Then another issue is like young kids become the teachers of their parents in handling the various smart gadgets they're using. So nowadays you can see it too, at the age of 2 or 3 they're already capable of using tablets. They are already capable. For example, I've got a little nephew, and he was 2 years old when he was holding a real newspaper in his hand, and he wanted to kind of like zoom in a real piece of paper, which was crazy to me that he already knew so much about technology that he actually recognized that this newspaper is something that exists technologically too, and he could zoom in there, so probably the paper works this way as well. It doesn't, but once again, children are ahead of us with so many things. They are already born with this. As far as I know, you are not born with the media, so probably you were only, as you mentioned, I think like 8 to 10 years old when it started off. For me, of course, it was later. I was like 15-ish, I think, when the whole thing started going down. But the brand new generation is already something that is dealing with it from cradle, no, from, is that cradle to the grave? Yes, absolutely. So from the very beginning to the very end of it. Traditional good old pedagogical methods fail to convey the knowledge to students. I think that's also really, really important, that nowadays the old methods, for example, frontal teaching, I really do believe in frontal teaching until it's going to be interactive. But the true frontal teaching, that there is a teacher talking to you and you are unable to give a reflection, you're unable to give feedback to them, and it's just like going ahead, I think it's dead. I think that formal like lectures and lecturers which are doing this very much frontal, no conversation based kind of teaching is just not going to be advantageous, in my opinion. I don't really believe that just giving tasks and just giving extra work and just making you work at home, I don't really think that that one is fruitful, because I think that everybody needs a good motivation. That's why we've got sometimes personal trainers and stuff like that, because before or without them, we just wouldn't go to the gym or something. And there is one person or maybe a friend you go down to the gym with, and then it's just like there is a must to go. I think the teachers work this way as well. I think there is a must, a need to have a teacher to be in contact with, and to have the lectures normally taught, but in a very interactive way, when you're talking about issues and not just like being told what to know and what to think and what to do. So in ages like that, and in periods like that, when babies have got digital marks before being born, when a child is teaching their parents how to do things online, and when traditional educational methods fail, we need to talk about literacy, right? So this is also an important thing. It's no longer possible to think about literacy in isolation from the vast array of social, technological, and economic factors as well. Now, there are two very much distinct yet very much cooperative or related factors which deserve a highlight, and one of them is going to be that the dominance of writing has been somewhat substituted by the new dominance of the image. So literacy needed to kind of alter in this sense as well, because before all that, the dominance of writing was assumable or was kind of noticeable. And right now, the dominance of the image is absolutely spreading in the world. I'm not sure how good your parents are, for example, in interpreting memes. My parents are not really good at that, even though they're both intellectual people. But they don't really. I don't really feel that they would understand. They of course they know sarcasm and irony and stuff like that. But this one is just like the image for them is not a very capable means, and it's not really like new media literacy is just not their cup of tea at the age of 61 and 70 years old. So it's like it's a lot. The move from the dominance from the medium of the book to the move from the dominance of the medium of the screen. So we have turned from the book to the screen as well. I think many people did it quite well. So our parents' generation also did it quite well, and even our grandparents at some point did it quite well. But we need to understand that the book was quite a frontal one, just like frontal teaching. The book is the same thing, that you hold a book and then you just kind of get acquainted with the inside of it. The medium of the screen is going to be not a linear kind of a medium, but rather something that has got a depth. And you can just be jumping from one hyperlink to another one and another one and another one, and it's just going to be way more complicated, way more full of like impacts and new experiences and stuff like that. So that's just going to give you once again a new kind of literacy that you need to be familiar with. Now, those two together are producing the revolution within the uses and effects of literacy. So there is a brand new literacy that we need to see. First of all, one of them is connected to the screen, and second of all, the screen is offering us images nowadays and not verbality anymore. Together, they raise two questions. First of all, what is the likely future of literacy? Where are we going? How is it going to be possible to keep up with it? What sort of new skills and maybe technological or cultural knowledges do we need? What do you think of this whole kind of what do we think of the future of literacy? And then second of all, what are the likely larger level social and cultural effects of that change? So practically, like, how will society kind of react to future changes and challenges of media literacy? Will we be kind of open about it? Will we want to be a part of it, or will we just want to, stick to the old medium? How will the mediums change? Do you think that there is something brand new coming along? Can you see something brand new coming along, or do you think that now the pace was super quick and then it just slowed down a little? Because the pace was quick, to be honest with you. So from the radio to the TV, very, very quick one. From the TV to the internet, quite a quick one once again. The gadgets are continuously evolving and developing, and I do remember that from the Walkman to the Discman, from the Discman to an MP3 player, and then later an MP4 and stuff like that. These were very, very quick. Now I feel like, I'm not sure, but the pace has slowed down a little. So if we take a look at the new devices, to me, an iPhone 6 and an iPhone XR or something, it's practically the same thing, just the button is a different one. So their knowledge is not super different, or not super like, I don't see much of a development, only in the price, to be fair with you. So I'm not sure how you think about the technological development and what sort of new developments you know of at the moment. But for sure, if there is a new technological development, that will bring about a new kind of cultural and literacy related development as well. Okay, so because we talk about new media literacy, and we believe that in a way we need to understand, interpret and use media messages, we have to quit treating the media as an independent entity. So it's not just like a canvas that we need to fill in. It's something that is already, we know it, that it's an agent that is changing us independently of our participation. So sometimes it's just like, it's listening to us when we don't know about it. It knows us even better than we do know ourselves and stuff like that. The interaction with the media is the one changing our social, cultural and personal reality as well. It does create a proper reality in our heads as well. It does tell us how to think about certain issues, what to think about certain issues. This means that we're already and also responsible in the way the media affects us. So when we listen to a piece of news, we are responsible for the interpretation of that, and it's not just the media that is the one to blame, it's also you and me who has to be blamed. Now, from a descriptive point of view, Mackwell, and I've already suggested him that you actually check him out. Dennis Mackwell, he's excellent at checking out the mass media and mass media history and stuff like that, and he distinguishes two social effects of the media from two directions. One of them is that the media the media effects can be positively or negatively evaluated. And second of all, the media has got a centrifugal and a centripetal social power. I'm sure that you have learned these two issues, centrifugal and centripetal, when you were in high school. I learned it I think in physics. So you know that centrifugal is something that is like disseminating, and centripetal is, we learned it when water goes down in the sink, and you know that the water is just like, this is the centripetal force that is like kind of bringing it in. And then centrifugal is the one when you've got a wheel, let's say like a wheel of a car, and it wants to go. And then there is the centrifugal kind of force, which is like, for example, splashing out mud away or water or something. That's the centrifugal one. Now, interestingly enough, we're talking about these two issues in the case of the media as well. And so the centrifugal effects, this one, which is like shattering the mud all over, this shows the isolating, scattering, fragmentary character of mass communication. So it just says that because the mass media seems to be a network and it connects us, but at the same time it also kind of shatters us into like different positions, different fragments when we are not super close-knit anymore. We did mention it with friendships as well, that like sometimes we believe that friendships used to be more kind of close-knit when they were only done, or we were only doing them in real life, and now the new media is somewhat like scattering these relationships as well. The centripetal effect presupposes that the media can work to unite the culture and society through an integration and common thinking, feeling and acting. So there are these two views, that the media is either like pushing people away from each other. The more we know each other, the more we don't want to have anything to do with each other. And the centripetal one is the uniting one. I'm not sure which one you believe, and if you can give me or give us any more examples to the centrifugal view and the centripetal view, but we will speak about it in teams anyways. So there are, as I've mentioned, Mackwell says that there is the centrifugal, centripetal point of view, and there is an optimistic and a pessimistic, so like a positive and negative kind of evaluation towards the both. Now let's see the optimistic approach and the centrifugal disseminating effect. It says that the media reinforces freedom, the opportunity for change and diversity within a society. So the centrifugal effect can also be positively viewed because it is like giving freedom to various little social groups, and diversity in society can be pointed out or can be noticed. There is also an optimistic approach to the centripetal one, the uniting one, which says that the media reinforces integration and solidarity within a society. I do remember a bunch of times when there was a lot of unification within the media when it was needed. We probably mentioned some of them. There are some Hungarian cases as well, but I'm sure that in your own case and in global cases too, we can mention a few. For example, with the Australian wildfires, as I remember, the whole globe got together and you could share money with them and give them donations. We did have cases in Hungary, for example, when there were children who were terribly in need with some very specific illnesses or sicknesses, and so they were supported by 800 million forints. That's a lot. I don't know how to count it out, but that's really a lot. And so it was just like the very strong centripetal effect of the media, which is an optimistic kind of view as well. The pessimistic approach to the centrifugal one, so the disseminating one, will say that the media leads to a lack of standard and devaluation within society. So because we are kind of picking up all the little groups and all the sometimes not even normal groups or not even healthy groups as well, the media will not give us a standard. We will say that like, oh, anything goes and everything is normal and everything is fine, and then it's just not teaching us what is right or wrong, and the centrifugal effect, is going to be like a negative one because it is just like valueless and anarchistic, to be honest. The pessimistic approach within the centripetal effect is going to be that the media reinforce dominance, uniformity, and confirmation. So in this sense, the media is trying to, the dominant view is going to be like, uniformized, if it's a word. So it's like going to be the uniformed kind of opinion. And if you don't agree with that one, you will have to stay in silence because of fearing isolation or being kicked out or just something, like being judged. So this pessimistic approach to the centripetal one as well is quite realistic, that the media is disseminating that you have to feel, think, and do this way. And if you don't, if you find it that like, oh, this is rubbish, then the only choice for you is going to be staying in silence or maybe like confronting, but that's just like not healthy or not good for you in the long run. So the media it does affect us, but it also depends on the research area, the methodology, ideological embedding and cultural conditions, how strong we feel this effect and how much we are complying with it. We can assume that the media works in the interest of the preservation of diversity and freedom. We can agree with that, I'm thinking, because now all kinds of TV channels, all kinds of new media channels are available, and so this effect is like quite strong, but freedom is provided most necessarily. It's a pledge of individualism for sure. So nowadays, with the internet, everybody can show their faces, and individualistically they can be like within a social group, which is a virtual one, so not real social group, individually getting stronger and stronger. And so the media causes the loss of the community image. Yeah, that's a negative one as well. Community image is just going away because a virtual community will never be as strong as a real community. A means of violent dissemination of popular culture and the introduction of deviance. So that's another view as well, that deviant ideas, deviant minor social groups, which maybe represent like a very small layer of the society, but they have got their voices heard too loud, and they will oppress the normal or healthy way of thinking that we cultivate. So that's also an issue. Media literacy has become one of the most important areas of media research in the past 2.5 decades. So media literacy is something that we've been dealing with. And we noticed it, or so many people noticed it, that parents and teachers, they're less and less competent in new media technologies. I do remember in my high school as well, we did have like very, very basic technology. We didn't even have a smart board. We used to have like a blackboard which you could write on with a chalk, and then we did have a TV and a video cassette player. That's all we did have. But then later on, as I've heard, and we do have a bunch of teachers in the family who teach in a high school level or on a high school level, they do say that here came the smart board, this, that, and that, and none of the teachers got any kind of qualifications or trainings how to make them work. So majority of them didn't even use it because they were like, nobody told them how to. And for that reason, their media literacy is way worse than the children's. And children are already irritated that here is technology, please for God's sake use it, because that's why we're here. And so some of the teachers, they have got these stress, and I think the parent as well has got some stress going on for the fact that a 10-year-old can always correct them or make them humiliated is a little too strong, but make them feel uncomfortable for sure. Okay. There are some times which are changing once again. There were times when our fathers used to tell us like, oh, do not push all the buttons on the TV remote control because you're going to ruin something. And where is it now? It's nowhere. It's like our fathers and mothers, they're happy if we help them with stuff, you know. Where are the books and the magazines of an adult content that were put on the top shelf? Well, I'm not sure what literature talks about. We didn't have this in my family, thank God. But, you know, these were also an issue. And today, on the media, the child can have access to any kind of content of an adult nature, be it like sexual or maybe like something of violence or something, and everybody has got an access to it. And nowadays it's not a big deal that the child will be exposed to those kind of things that they shouldn't be exposed to. And they're kind of growing up much faster because of that too. Yes, and today we can see that fathers are recording children to their cell phones and enchantedly sharing it on their websites that like, or like social sites that like, oh, look at my child playing on a tablet or doing this, doing that. Mothers are using smart devices or televisions also as a babysitter because it's just easy. I see it so many times on buses as well that the child is irritated or crying or something, and the mother is just giving a smartphone. They're like, oh, just shut up. So you can tell that times are changing, and so many times it's a parental issue in my opinion as well, that like if you don't show an example, that how will you tell your child to put the phone down if you yourself are on your phone continuously? It's a very, very difficult issue. Yeah, it's something that we should always think about. And of course, the mother and the father can be using it for work, but sometimes they don't, and that's when the child is like given a bad example of constant usage of technological devices. Teachers are working with hidden or actual anxiety. Yes, I've been speaking about it. I think they should, or they would need much of a technological training as well, so that they can be smarter than the student. But indeed, it's just not happening, to be honest, because they're not super motivated, they're not given much help, and they're fine as it was. So they said they're like, I've been teaching this way for 30 years, so why would I change it now? They really should, because children nowadays have got different needs and different kind of platforms that they prefer, so it should be taken in consideration. Okay, so it seems like the world is kind of growing into this digital information and media direction, and not many people are catching up with this, or not in the right ways, which is going to be problematic. Therefore, the issue of media literacy is not only like whenever we speak about media literacy, we say that like newborns and toddlers and youngsters, they have to be taught media literacy, but this is not the case, ladies and gents. New media literacy should be taught to everyone. So it's like, it's just as much as for those people who were generation baby boomers and X and Y and Z and alphas and betas and all the modern ones as well. So I think it's just for everyone practically, because mainly I think one of them, the technological part of it is mainly the old generations, and the cultural part is mainly the new generations kind of problem, but we will speak about it in a second. Okay, let's take a look. The first definition to new media comes from 1992. There was a conference which was held in the United States of America. They all come from the States practically, all the big definitions of media. And so there was this national leadership conference where they actually put together a definition, and researchers came from all over the place and all over the disciplines as well, and created a definition that is broad enough not to be changed every minute. They didn't quite like it. They did not fully agree on this, but later on they kind of added, these were the fundamental principles, and then later on they added some pluses and minors, but apart from that, this was the basis. So, new media literacy, or media literacy, is the ability to decode, interpret, analyze, and reproduce messages in various forms. So practically, this is a very basic definition, which was kind of, some stuff later on were added, but it was the basic idea behind it, that new media literacy is something that, like, you get a message, you can decode it, interpret it, analyze it, and critically think about it, which is going to be, and reproduce it later on, which is going to be super, super important. They also added a few bullet points that were kind of making the whole idea holistic, to be fair. First of all, the media are constructed and created. So it's a human construction, and the media is something that is socially constructed. So we've mentioned it with news creation, that the news are not something that, like, oh, here is some news and it's newsworthy because of itself. No, it's not. It's going to be socially constructed, and it's going to gain its value from the new society. The second one is going to be that the media themselves are involved in the creation of reality. The way you are thinking of the world comes halfway from your upbringing and parental kind of thinking, and comes halfway from the media as well, and the mediums that you're consuming and the ideas that they are disseminating are going to be kind of shaping your reality and your way of thinking as a human. The media are not independent of ideological and political factors. This is not much of a surprise, I'm assuming. Every medium belongs somewhere, and if it belongs to a government, it will be governmentally oriented. If it belongs to a commercial channel or something, it will be anti-government, and the whole thing is going to be anti-government, and the whole thing is just going to be, like, politically interested or interdependent. The media message is related to form and content, for sure. So the media message always have a content, will always have a content, but they also have a form, and they will also have, like, a genre to them. For example, every single news office here in Hungary, they always have got this big glass table, futuristic kind of lights behind them, and the same form is there everywhere. And then with the X Factor, they always have got the same form. And then with the Voice, always the same form. So the different genres, such as the news, such as the sports, such as talent shows, such as some things, talk shows, they always have got the same setup. And if you check it out, it's the same thing cultural. Oh, my nose is so itchy. It's the same thing culturally as well. So it's like you go to another news channel, the BBC or the CNN or something, the same futuristic setup and the same thing is going on. I'm not sure why they're doing that. I'm really curious about your opinion, but their form is the same thing everywhere. Number 5, both form and content have their own aesthetic systems, codes and conventions. That's what we've been talking about, that it's the same aesthetic everywhere. Consumers receive and create meaning from and by the media. So now consumers are not only like, as we were TV watchers back in the days, that we watch a news channel or we watch just something and then we understand it and go to bed. We are creators as well, and we can be kind of commenting to it, adding them, sharing them. So we are now part of the whole story as well. Okay, here we go. The dimensions of digital media literacy. That's what I meant when I was speaking about how the adults need literacy as well, and the youngsters need literacy too. Because there are two kinds of literacies, device literacy and content literacy. Now, the device literacy, first of all, you need to have access to that device. So you know your device, you know how to, you've got an ownership to that device as well. You can technologically operate it. Understanding device literacy is understanding the basic nature of technology, that this will maybe, the battery will run out. I will have to plug it in. I have to get connected to the Wi-Fi if I want something. I need VPN at some point. I need this, I need that. So on a functional level, you understand device literacy. And then also in the bottom, you can see you can create device literacy, for example, the ability to produce, reproduce, and create content. That's really important. So it's like the technological side of it, that you know that I need to push this button on Facebook in order to share a post, or I need to go into my library of photos in order to upload it onto Instagram and stuff like that. I think the adults, because they are already quite concerned with what to share about their private lives or whatnot, not all of them, of course, but I think this is the most problematic device. The device literacy is going to be the most problematic to them, because they don't really know how to make it operate or how to make it work, really. So that's a problem. They also have got content literacy as well. I think the youngsters will mainly have content literacy. Now let's see the content literacy in the domain of access. This is the ability to search, find, and filter relevant content. So probably the older generation has got device literacy as well as content literacy problems. The youngsters will definitely have got this one. So it's like, am I sharing fake news? Am I just not believing something that is silly? Do I filter it well? Is it like hoax? Is it not normal? This is a problem. Now, to understand content literacy is the ability to understand and critically analyze content. Once again, very true that once you are able to search it and find it, then you need to evaluate the content of it as well. And then last but not least, create content literacy. This is the ability to form opinions, ideas, and convert into digital content, to know cyber etiquette and ethics itself. So I think not everybody knows that. So many people go into these verbal fistfights on a digital platform, or they share certain contents which they will kind of regret a couple of years later. Intimate photos, this and that. That's also like the creative or the creation part of content literacy. I think it might be a problem to the older generation too, but I think this one is still a problem to the younger ones as well. Some people are oversharing, and then later on it might hit back, to be fair with you. There is another definition to new media literacy, which will be understanding the messages being transmitted by mass media and how these messages affect our culture and its members. So once again, it's like you've got to understand the messages, first of all, and second of all, it will have an effect on the individual as well as the culture itself. Okay, now we can see that the media, it kind of, and being media literate, it liberates you. It's kind of allowing you to become a critical viewer, and this model means moving away from the passive audience into who are kind of like harmless towards entertainment and harmless towards media messages because they will just believe everything, and they're moving towards a critical audience who is like critically analyzing media messages, which is very important. Yes, moving towards this active model is going to be important because you can assume new media influence. It's like taking a politician's every word for granted. That's not smart, is it? And you need to be critically analyzing the political interest behind it as well, and saying that like, oh, that politician is so objective and just wants the best. No, probably not. So it's like they want the best for a bigger cause, and for power and money and the big deal as well. Of course, they do have a bunch of very, very good intentions and a bunch of very good deeds as well, but we need to be critical about their creations as well and their intentions as well, and so many things have to be critically kind of understood. Now, in his book Media Literacy, James Potter is someone who is practically not the father of Harry Potter, of course. He's a media researcher, and he talks about the way we think about ourselves due to the media. And he says that the media is trying to make us feel really uneasy and self-conscious. So they want us to feel lacking something or missing something, so that you will buy the product, use the service, They want you to constantly feel self-conscious about yourself, that like, oh, there is this shampoo on the TV or on any advertisement online, and it's like, my hair is not as shiny as hers, so let's just do it, or let's just buy it and use it. They're always trying to make you feel that you need to strive for something, you need to be craving something, you need to want something. This is not really healthy, is it? And so James Potter said that every single message of the media is going to be multidimensional. Every message in general is multidimensional, if you allow me to say that. For example, if you say just a very normal sentence, just a very everyday sentence, not a media message, that will have these four dimensions too: the cognitive, the emotional, the aesthetic, and the moral dimensions. Every statement has got it, unless it's like a question or something. So, for example, if I say this sentence, I'm worried about Carrie, she is going to go to a party tonight and drink, and who knows who she is going to end up going home with. This is a multidimensional message as well. So it's like, two friends are talking about a third one. Carrie is going out, she's gonna be smashed, and she's gonna kind of have a fun time, and she's gonna get lucky. How do we think about it? What do we feel about it? Because in this comment, there is a bunch of things. There is, for example, a little anxiety, feeling worried about Carrie, being scared for her life, maybe because she's going home with someone dangerous, or maybe a little envy that like Carrie is super easygoing and she's going to have a party tonight while I'm writing an assignment or something. It's a multidimensional message. On the cognitive level, we get to know the information, that there is a concern for a friend for certain reasons. On the emotional level, there is a variety of feelings going on, felt by the communicator, for example, worry, anxiety, jealousy. So, this is all on. The aesthetic dimension includes the communicator's artistic style, how the whole message is going to be somewhat conveyed, with what words, in what way as well. And the moral domain will be like, is there a judgment in it or no judgment in it? Now, James Potter actually says that just as every message will have these four cognitive, emotional, aesthetic, and moral dimensions, every single media dimension or media message will have these four dimensions too. For example, there is this male enhancement drug that I keep receiving into my email account. I don't know why, because the email is not filtering information well. They do not even know I'm not a male. But there was this drug that was going down. It's an advertisement I keep seeing all the time on my laptop. I'm not sure why. It says, max size, longer, fuller, firmer, as you wish, so everything is here. Now, in this advertisement, I find it that it's a multidimensional one as well. On the cognitive dimension, it says that a critical user can analyze the factual information. What will this drug do to me? How does it affect my body? What sort of side effects there are? And stuff like that. There is an emotional side to the dimension as well. For example, you analyze how the people who are writing the email or making these advertisements, how they want you to feel really, and how they want to make you be anxious about yourself and stuff like that, or feel about your personal characteristics and stuff like that. So that's like an emotional level. An aesthetic level is going to be how the text is put together, what sort of pictures they're using, if they're using any pictures as well. So it's practically like a design and stuff like that. As you can tell, it's quite a design. And the moral level, what the producers intended you to feel like. For example, in this one, it's often the moral level that like, oh, it's absolutely normal, and after a certain age, everybody is using it. So yeah, it's just natural. It's not dirty. It's part of life. So just don't feel stupid about it. Every single media message will have these four domains, and we need to understand all these four domains in order to interpret the media messages quite well. Now let's take a look at new media literacy within the family and what the parent can do. It's a very typical question from families and from young mothers and older mothers as well, which is crazy to me. I keep hearing it all the time. Please help me with what to say to the child if he's constantly on his phone, even during family meals, instead of listening to the grandparents' stories. What do I do? Take it away? I have repeatedly warned him, all in vain. I'm not sure what you think about this one. We can say that the media has invaded our private lives, and they are there all the time, and it's really difficult to kind of live a peaceful life, a family life as well. I think the child did see it from somewhere, and I think that showing an example, being on your phone and constantly watching TV and stuff like that, and then telling the child off is not a good method. But of course, I think it's not an excuse either. I know that new media is really, really exciting, and it's a never-ending form of entertainment. But before all that, we also had Barbie dolls, and we also had GI Joes and little cars and stuff like that, and we did listen to the grandparents' stories. So I think it's still a matter of upbringing, but I do understand that the parents, they also are very much struggling too. So sometimes it's very easy to give them the babysitter as a TV, or a digital gadget. And then, you will be surprised that the child is really, really like glued to the television, glued to the screen. So it's just, it's a difficult one. I'm very curious about your opinion. So the examples the parents show will be determining in case of the children's media consumption as well. And there are 5 different ways determined in relation to the parents' behavior towards the media consumption of the children. Let's take a look at that. What can they do? They can be co-using. So the parent and the child will be using the new media together, and the parent is present, even sharing the activity with the child. Maybe you have got some experience like this. I hear it from some parents that they tend to play, let's say, FIFA or something like, like, I don't know any gadgets, PS for something with the child, right? So it's like the parent sits down and plays with the child. It's okay. Active mediation. The parent talks about the content, interpreting, critiquing, to guide the child. So, for example, they're watching TV together or watching the news together. The father or the mother is constantly saying that, like, oh, that's such rubbish or something, so that the child hears the value system that he or she needs to pick up. Restrictive mediation. The parent sets rules that restrict the child's use, for example, by time or by activities. For example, each day you have got 1 hour that you can spend on your phone, or each day you can do 5 activities or play 2 games, but that's all really. I'm not sure if you've had any restrictions like this. Monitoring. The parent checks available records of the child's media use afterwards. I think this is a little creepy. I'm not sure. I'm not a parent yet. But this one seems, to me, in a romantic relationship, it already seems weird when checking out somebody else's stuff. Because if you already have to check, then there is something wrong, of course. In here, once again, it feels a little weird as well, that like going after the child monitoring, but sometimes it must be just curiosity or something that like, what was the other doing? Sometimes it's no bad intentions. I'm not sure what you think about it. Maybe in certain cases in a romantic relationship it's also acceptable, but apart from that, it still has got a trust issue behind it. To me, it screams that like, I can't ask, so I would just go behind, and there is something creepy about it or sneaky behind it. Technical restrictions. The use of software to filter, restrict or monitor the child's use. This often happens. For example, with the TV as well, you can be putting a technical restriction that like after X o'clock, it's like your TV will switch off, or it will, this and that channel will be unavailable. And the same thing can be put onto a smart gadget as well. So these are the kind of things a parent can do. And I'm wondering what experiences you have got, whether your parent did any of these, co-usage, or which ones are these? Yeah, active mediation, like kind of interpreting the media for you. My mom did this a bunch of times as well, like watching the news, and like she was either like reinforcing certain ideas in me, or in us, or she was criticizing certain issues, and then this is how our so we were kind of familiar with the happenings of the world, but we were somewhat given her views, which I fully agree with now as well. It's a matter of upbringing, so for sure it's something that the parents will do. I'm wondering if you've got any restriction experience, monitoring or technical restrictions. I'm very curious about it. Please comment it, yes, but we will talk about it in Teams anyways. And then last but not least, and this is the last topic I wanted to cover, it's going to be new media literacy within education. The European Union's institutions have been formulated for a very long time now, and these documents have got guidelines, and a lot of member states joined these document creations and stuff like that. And according to them, media literacy is increasingly becoming an important component of the European and national policy agendas. So they are kind of reinforcing it, that it should be a part of education from a very young age as well, because children start using new media, in the cradle once again. And so it's just like in so many states, for example, in the Scandinavian countries, it's already a big deal to teach new media literacy from elementary school levels, which is a good idea in my opinion. But it does not have its own place in the curriculum in many European countries, such as the V4, which is going to be the Visegrad 4 countries, Hungary, Slovakia, the Czech Republic and Poland. And in our curriculums, it's just not... we do have media literacy, don't get me wrong, but we do not have them independently taught. So majority of times, it's going to be in the basic humanities and natural sciences, foreign languages, history, debate lessons, ethics, philosophy and religion. So in these classes, media literacy is somewhat brought in. Or I do remember that we didn't have a media class, but we did have Hungarian class. And then in Hungarian class, we did have like the big Hungarian movies, and we did check them out. And then we were talking about media and media literacy and stuff like that. And in the case of history too, we were talking about how certain events of history in the 20th century, when the media was super strong and propaganda was strong here, how they were portrayed in the media. So we did have a little bit of media integrated into a bunch of ethics and philosophy. I do remember these classes that we had in high school, and a bunch of lessons belonged to the media, but media literacy or media in general was not an independent subject for us. Yes, in Slovakia, okay, it's a Visegrad 4 country, and still it's like they are the first ones to try and make it an independent subject as well out of the Visegrad 4 countries. However, it's like they have wanted to introduce it on an educational program as an independent subject, but still for many schools, this subject is not compulsory but voluntary. So if the school wants to integrate it in the curriculum, they can, but it's not governmentally controlled that they put it in every single institution or not. So it's up to the school if they wanted to have an extra media lesson instead of something or not. So yes, the decision whether to offer such a course is up to the school management and not anything else. So what is the problem about the education of media literacy? There is no real place in education, no recognition of the field, no long-term in-depth education, just short-term course or project-focused kind of developments of media literacy are available, which is problematic. What can be the reason for this? And I'm curious, is it taught in your country? Is it taught well? Do you have it as a separate subject? Do you think it's important to learn it from a young age? What would be a level that you would start teaching it? Do you think technological or cultural literacy will be the more prominent or more important? What do you think should be highlighted more? Which parts would you teach and how? And with these 1,500 questions, I will say thank you for your attention, and let's just move right into Teams, and we will talk about all this in a minute. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.